What's up, Fortnite fans? This video today is going to be focused around dying less and getting more kills in Fortnite. Let me know down in the comment section below what your highest kill game this season is. The gameplay in the background is a 20 kill solo win, and I will be discussing 3 ways you guys can get more kills and die less in the game. I'll be discussing with you guys how to give yourself the advantage over an enemy before you get into a fight, how to deal more damage to your opponents while playing low ground, and finally, we'll be covering when to build versus when to shoot. We'll be covering these in order, so let's start off with giving yourself the advantage over your enemy before you even get into a fight. Rotating around the map doesn't just mean to follow zones so you don't get hit by the storm, and it doesn't mean moving around the map looking for opponents the whole entire time either. The secret that no pro player wants you to know is that when you guys rotate around the map, you can give yourself the advantage over your enemies by simply taking natural high ground and rotating to the different spots around the map that give you the best advantage. To give you an example of what I mean, let's picture in our heads we're moving from Salty Springs to Loot Lake. Instead of running through the valleys to get to where we're going, why not use the mountaintops to our advantage to catch the people who are on the ground running through the valleys off guard. Using natural high ground to your advantage and rotating to places with the high ground will give you the instant advantage over your opponents before you even find them. Rotate to the best possible spots around the map and keep a mental note of fallback options as you get into a fight. It's best to have a backup plan before you get into that fight so you don't have to think about things as soon as you get into one. Positioning is the #1 way to get more kills. Sure, editing and building fast gives you a little bit more options to work with, but if you position yourself the right way and get an idea of your surroundings, you won't have to build as much. Let's move right on into how to deal more damage to your opponents when playing low ground. Being a low ground warrior is one of the best traits to have in your gameplay. The reason for this is because if you lose high ground, you don't run out of options and aren't completely out of the fight against your enemies. If you're one of those players that once they lose the high ground, they're most likely dead, being a low ground warrior will make you a deadly player due to your ability to adapt to every situation you're in. What a lot of players don't know is that when you play low ground, no matter what, you do not want to stop shooting and moving. Sure, the other player will most likely be shooting through your walls and trying to break and replace your walls, but you have an opportunity to quickly edit a window and get a quick shot off on your enemy as soon as they start to reload their weapons or when they hit the build for the first time with their harvesting tool. The key to playing low ground in Fortnite is never giving up. For example, if your opponent does break your wall and they have an opportunity for a window edit and a shotgun shot on you, you also have the same opportunity to hit a shotgun shot or spray your SMG at them and take damage away. This is hard for your opponents to counter, and I've seen it to where oftentimes my enemies will actually back away from me as soon as I start chipping away a ton of health on them. Practice playing low ground as much as possible because you won't always have high ground when you're in a fight. A good way to practice is just start by giving your opponents high ground on purpose and start playing the low ground to get experience with what a good player and a bad player would do against you. With that out of the way, let's talk about when to build versus when to shoot. This is a question I get asked a lot on my channel, and I even made a video titled "The Biggest Mistake Almost Every Fortnite Player Makes," which is #1, overbuilding, and #2, not knowing when to build versus when to shoot. Unlike games such as Call of Duty, Fortnite is different because every single game, players determine the battleground with building. To some players, this comes easy, but for others, this is tremendously confusing. To make things easier for you guys, think of building as something you do to create a base for yourself to shoot from, or simply a wall to stick by when you shoot your weapons. Another tip to make things easier for you guys is getting into the habit of having your gun ready to shoot instead of having your build menu out. A lot of people get confused by the idea of building and what it's actually used for, and I know that some players think that you have to build in order to be good, and that's really not the case. If you guys can avoid building and just take shots behind a car, do that. You don't always have to build. And I think the reason for this is because all the gameplays and the highlights and insanely fast and complicated building moves by very famous players that you guys are watching is getting you confused on the difference between a bad player and a good player. I've talked about playstyle before, and guys like FaZe Sway, Ghost X, and Ghost Shaw are all known for their really fast and efficient builds. And if you guys aren't comfortable with being a really fast builder like those guys are, then maybe it's time to switch up your playstyle and build for efficiency, not for looks and not for speed. If you guys use all of these tips in this video, you too can come up with your own playstyle and be a more successful player and get more kills. I hope this video helps you guys out. If it did, tell me about it down in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next video. Peace out.